How's it going, guys? Scatter5 here. Just wanted to make a video. This video is going to be a little bit of a more of a topic video. I wanted to explain to you guys the reason why I carry a gun. There's a lot of people that know me personally, and even family members are like, "Why do you carry a gun? Why do you carry a gun?" Of course, they also know I go by it's better to have and not need, and need and not have, for one. But I kind of wanted to tell you about when I actually felt the time that I actually almost pulled my gun out of its holster, intent to use it. Now this wasn't against another human attacker, but I carry my gun on me for self-protection, no matter whether it's from a human or an animal attacking. This particular instance was a German Shepherd. I was on my way home one day, and I turned right into the neighborhood next to my neighborhood that I was going to take the back roads behind the college. And I just past the post office, and I noticed out of the corner of my eye, as I was coming up on the first cul-de-sac on my left, there was a German Shepherd that ran out in the road and then turned around and ran back. I went down one street, did a U-turn, and came back because I am a dog owner. I'm an animal lover, and I saw that dog as someone's pet, and I wouldn't want my dogs getting hit by a car, and I would hope that somebody would have the same courtesy as I tried to have, and turn around and try and keep the dog from getting run over in the street. Well, I pulled in right behind another person who was also doing the same thing. She pulled off to the right side of the road. I pulled off to the left side of the road. I rolled down my window, and I proceeded to find out why she had stopped, and found out that she was there for the same reason. She told me that she had seen it barking at a kid on a bicycle as she was driving by, which kind of threw a flag up right, a slight flag up right there. But dogs bark. They bark at anything. They bark at the mailman. They bark at people going by. They bark at other dogs. They bark at anything. So I said, well, you know what, whatever. So I get out of the car. She also gets out of her car. We step out onto the street in front of our vehicles. Didn't go any further, but so we attempt to try and call the dog over. Now, the dog, when we started calling, probably heard my voice a little bit more predominant than hers, because I was calling him a little bit louder. So he focused in on me. He just kind of stopped what he was doing out in the middle of the street, looked at me, and then started running. And the way he started running just made me feel extremely uncomfortable. So I started to back off, back to my car door, which I had left open, as it proceeded to run towards me. I got behind my car door. By the time it arrived where I was, it was standing right in front of me, and I had my car door in between me and the dog, and it stood there staring at me, just staring at me. And then it stared at me for like a good 20 seconds, if that, and it started to bark. And this wasn't a normal bark. I know what normal barking is, and this wasn't a normal bark. It was throwing spit, almost foaming, almost as it was starting to foam at the mouth, but it was throwing spit. It was just going full out like it wanted to take a chunk out of my arm. So at that point, I slowly got back into my car and closed my car door. I rolled my window not all the way up, but 75% of the way up. So just so I could keep communication, like if I had to call the dog back over just in case something were to happen, I could. But once I finished with the window, I then proceeded, because at that point I did not feel safe for my life, or even for the young girl that also stopped her life. So I proceeded to pull my gun out of the holster. I kept it low, right on my leg where she couldn't see it. And I'm pretty sure she saw the gun on my hip when we stepped out, but I didn't want her to see me racking the gun. I do carry my sidearm with a full clip, without one in the chamber. I feel safer with it just with a full mag and without one in the chamber. I know a lot of people argue against that, but that's the way I do it. That's just the way I do it. That's how I feel comfortable doing it. That's just me. So say what you want. I don't care. That's just how I'm going to do it. That's how I plan on doing it. I can at least say this this thing forward towards is the fact that the gun I carry doesn't really technically have a physical safety. If I had a gun like a double action or something similar to that actually had physical safeties on it, then like my old P97 I used to have, which had a decocker, where I could have one in the round, but had the hammer forward, and all I had to do is just pull the trigger, and it would pull the hammer back. Something like that, I would feel comfortable carrying around in the chamber, which I do plan on getting something that I can carry around in the chamber, preferably something small. But anyways, back on subject. And for those of you who don't know, I'll show you what I do carry. I carry a Glock 32. Glock 32 that's been converted to 40 Smith & Wesson. And that is how I carry it. No rounds in the chamber, 13 rounds in the magazine. Hollow points. So anyways, I racked the gun and I placed it back in my holster. I didn't know if this dog was going to try and jump through my window or not. I just wasn't going to take the chance of having to load my gun while I was being vigorously attacked. Viciously attacked, I should say. Viciously attacked. So by the time I had finished putting the gun in my holster, the dog had lost interest and started going back, sniffing through people's yards and so on. I saw that the dog did have a collar, but it didn't have any tags. Well, I noticed this while it was, of course, right up against my window, or right by my window. I looked over at the young lady that was sitting in her car, and I told her I'm going to call animal control. And that's what I did. I called animal control. The dispatcher, she told me that it'd be a little while before someone could be out there. I did tell her that this dog seemed to have vicious intent, and told her what it had already shown. It had already shown aggression towards myself. I also told her I would try and stay as long as I could till the animal control officer got to the area. So I'm sitting there waiting on animal control, and I hear a door open, and I look over my left shoulder, and I notice an old man coming out of the house, one house behind where I was parked, and he's coming down his sidewalk from his door, and I rolled the window down a little bit more so I could speak out the window more clearly, and I said, "Sir, you might want to go back in your house. There is a dog loose." At that point, I looked back to where the dog was, and it was running. It had already noticed the old man, and it was running towards him. So my first thought is, "Oh my God, it's going to attack this old man." This man I would have estimated to be at least late 60s, early 70s. So my first thought is, oh my God, this dog is going to attack this old man, and I'm going to have to shoot this dog. And I wouldn't have hesitated. I really wouldn't. If the dog had gotten a hold of his arm, I would not have hesitated to shoot that dog. I won't say how I would have done it, because I've never didn't get that close to that situation, and I know there's a lot of that comes down to it. There's an opinion of a person who has been in a situation, and there's the opinion of someone who hasn't been in the situation, that likes to think that they would do this or that, and then they get in that situation and it's a completely different situation. So you can say all you want, oh, I would definitely shoot that person in that situation. I wouldn't have hesitated, or so on and so forth, or I'd shoot the dog right then and there. I would have shot the dog right at the beginning of the aggression, or whatever you want to say, and until you get to that situation, and then it's a completely different ballgame. Completely different ballgame. And in situations like that, and this is what I try to do, is I like to try and keep a cool head. Keep calm. Don't panic. So anyways, this dog is now running towards this old man. The old man sees the dog coming and turns around and starts trying to get back to his house. And of course my thought is, this dog's going to catch up to him before he gets to the house and attack him. So in an effort to divert the dog's attention, I jump out of my car and jump into the path of the dog to get its attention. I start screaming, "Hey, hey, hey, look, I'm out of the car, come after me, come get me, come get me." And it worked. The dog saw me and saw that I was I guess a closer target, or however you want to say it. But jumping out, screaming like I did, got its attention, so it focused its attention on me instead of the old man. I then proceeded to run back to my car and jump back into my car and close the car door. The dog stopped at my car door and started barking at me, and the man was able to get back into his house. And then of course the dog lost interest and started going through yards again. Now this is about 15 minutes from the point where I pulled over and turned my car off to then. Still no sign of the animal control. And now the dog is in the middle of the street, about a house, maybe an house and a half down. And all of a sudden I see a man coming from the very end of the cul-de-sac. So my first thought, warn him, just like I did with the old man. I open the door, I step up, step out of the car, and I said, "Sir, there's a dog loose. You might want to be careful." And I noticed that the guy was ignoring me. Well, it seemed to me like he was ignoring me because he wasn't acknowledging what I was saying. The man walks up to the dog. The dog sees him and then lays down, and instantly I know this is the owner. So I walk around the door and I start to approach him. I don't go all the way. I just approach him to where I can talk to him without yelling. And I said, "Sir, I tried to tell him what had happened. I told him, "Sir, I was driving by and I noticed your dog almost get hit by a car. It ran out in the road. I stopped, and because I didn't want it to get hit by a car, and at that point, before I could even continue saying what was going on, he had already gotten the dog on a leash. He turns around and starts to run back to his house with the dog." The second he starts to run, instantly says to me that he knew this dog would have attacked someone. Says to me that if I had stayed, instead of backing up that first encounter, backing up to my door, had stayed right at the front of my car, that dog would have jumped on me and started attacking me. So my message to you, for telling you this story, the reason why I carry a gun is not only for my defense, for my friends' defense, defend my friends and family, defend people and defend anybody, that I help anybody more. If, like in this situation, if that dog had attacked that old man, had gone past me and gone and attacked that old man, I would have had the tools to stop the attack. And the same situation is would be the same situation if it had been another human being attacking someone. I exercise my right for that reason, my Second Amendment right for that reason. And I do want to say on the fact of the dog, to those who watch this, if you're a dog owner and you know or you have a dog that you're not quite sure, but you wouldn't completely trust that dog not to attack someone, don't let it out of your sight. And when I say that, I mean don't carelessly leave the front door open so the dog can waltz right out the door and go attack somebody. I mean, come on, it's called responsibility. Have you ever heard of it? I mean, Jesus Christ. The fact that dog was out on the street because that man had left his door open was irresponsibility on his part. And if that dog had attacked that old man, he would have been held responsible. Because it was his dog, it was his irresponsibility that he left the door open. Fully knowing that this dog would attack someone. So if you're going to own an animal, whether it be a dog, whether it be a reptile, whether it be a hamster, a bird, or even a fish tank, doesn't matter. Responsibility. Owning an animal is a responsibility. It's like taking care of a human kid. You have the responsibility to care for that kid, just like you have the responsibility to properly care for your pet. And whatever your pet does, you are held, not the pet, you are held responsible for it. Whether it shits in someone else's yard or it bites an old lady, you are held responsible because you are the owner. And it was your responsibility to make sure that something like that doesn't happen. But anyways, but that's the reason why I carry. If you don't want to carry, by all means, you don't have to carry. Nobody's making you carry a gun. If you personally believe in in these gun control laws, then that's your right to. This is a free country. But also, you got to keep in mind this. Our constitutional rights state that we have the right to carry arms. But just because you have the right to carry arms doesn't mean you have to. No one is forcing you to own or carry a gun. Owning a gun also has, keyword, responsibility. Just like owning a pet, you have responsibility. You have the responsibility of keeping that gun safe, in a safe manner. Like if you're at the range, always keeping it downrange. Or in general, if you're pulling it out of your case at home so you can clean it. Or you're transporting it from your car, never pointing it at anybody. Even though it's unloaded, doesn't matter. Bolt's open. You can clearly see that there's no round in it. Never point it at someone. Always treat a gun like it's loaded, no matter what. If you have kids, it is your responsibility not only to lock your gun up, keep it in a safe place where they can't get to it, but also your responsibility, in my personal opinion. Other people's opinion may differ, but in my personal opinion, it is also your responsibility to teach your kids gun safety, what to do if they were to find a gun, if they were walking home from school and they happen to see a gun on the ground, and responsibility. It is your responsibility to teach them gun safety, what to do in the case of finding a gun, and the responsibility when handling firearms, safely handling firearms. It's all responsibility. And I personally believe that if people would learn how to be responsible, and I know this is a long shot of asking, but and there's a high probability people are just going to be ignorant and not learn how to be responsible. But if people were to learn responsibility, how to be responsible, we wouldn't have incidences like Sandy Hook. We wouldn't have incidences like at Virginia Tech or that school. I can't remember the name of the school off the top of my head. That school where the kid who took his mother's guns and went in and started killing people. We wouldn't have incidences like that. I mean, there would still be there probably would be other incidences, because those are just incidences that where there is a possibility that gun responsibility could have prevented that. Like the mother of that kid who went and killed all those people at the school. If she had properly kept her guns locked away in a safe where her child couldn't get to it, that incident wouldn't have happened. I'm sorry, but it wasn't because she was crazy, she had mental illness, or anything like that. It's responsibility. She had guns, and she did not keep them in a safe place. Now, I know you see in the background, I have a gun rack right about there. 3 guns on it. And then I have this out. I also don't have children in my house. There are never any children in my house. I live with my grandparents and my mom. My mom, who's scared of guns. My grandmother, who doesn't know how to even operate a gun, would never pick one up. And my grandfather, who is a 28-year Marine colonel, who is trained to use firearms. So, I have a lot less to worry about. But I guarantee you, if I were to ever have kids, they would not be able to get to my guns. I would have a safe. I would keep my guns locked in that safe. And for self-protection, I'd still have this where it was readily available, but it'd be in either in my holster when I'm up and about. If I'm sleeping, it'll be in a side drawer that has a bedside drawer that has a locking drawer, so my kids could not get to it. Of course, at the same time, once they're old enough to understand what I'm talking about, they would also learn proper gun safety, how to handle a firearm safely, how to properly handle a firearm, how to safely use a firearm, all gun safety. They'll also learn what to do if they happen to find a firearm on the ground. No matter what. And because if someone were to take the responsibility and teach their kids that, take the responsibility and lock their guns up, not their kids, excuse me, their guns up, lock their guns up. Incidences like Johnny knows where Dad's gun is and decides he wants to show it off to his friend and accidentally pulls the trigger and shoots his friend. Those situations would not happen. So, anyways, I've been ranting a little bit too long. Been getting out a little bit out of subject, but that's what I wanted to say. I hope it has been informational. Please forgive my stuttering. I do welcome any comments, any criticism. Leave your comments in the section below. If you have any questions, by all means ask them. I'll try and answer them the best I can. Catch you later, guys.